What's going on, creatives? Today we're going to talk about finding great stories. We keep hearing storytelling is the future, and the ability to tell stories is what set people apart. And the one thing that we know is that it is true. If you're in marketing, if you're in sales, if you're in leadership role, you're an entrepreneur, the difference is your ability to tell a great story. With AI, with ChatGPT, with Claude, Novel Crafter, all of these tools are going to help people craft a lot of content. And because the barrier to entry has been reduced, the difference is your ability to tell a great story. And that's the point of this episode. Is like, how do we find great stories and how do we craft them? We're going to look at the classic novels and we're going to pull inspiration from them. We're not going to use the plot lines. We're not going to use the characters, but we are going to draw from that novel something that we can use in crafting our own narrative. I did this with David Benioff's City of Thieves. You've heard of David Benioff. He does the writing for the Game of Thrones. He did Penny Dreadful, although I was annoyed how he ended Penny Dreadful, but he is a great writer. And this story here is really about a soldier, a deserter, and he's arrested, and a young Jewish boy who was arrested, and they're both in jail. And rather than the colonel killing them, he decides that he needs eggs for his daughter's birthday cake. So he sends them on this quest into this city that's under siege to find eggs. And of course, all type of chaos and everything ensues. It is a great story. I think is one of it's one of my favorite novels of all time. Definitely up there in the top 10. I think Shades of Memnon is up there as well, but this is definitely one of my favorite novels. What do we get from this story? Well, what we're going to get is a timeless themes. What's the overarching theme of this story? What made this story what it was? And we're going to gather that. And the three main things that came from this is survival, friendship and camaraderie, and the absurdity of war. Now, the benefit of looking at the themes is that the themes, one, they're universal, and two, they're exactly what it says, timeless. It means that this theme will work for a story told in 5000 BC. It will work for a cyberpunk dystopian story told 400 years in the future. Because the themes are timeless and they're part of our human nature. They're part of our human makeup. And that's what make them so fun. And if we can extract the themes from a story, we now have the starting point of telling our own story. Now, one of the things that I have a world that I built. And because I've built this world, I'm able to now take those timeless themes and place them in this world. And that makes it a little bit easier because if I didn't have this, now I have to kind of think of the story to surround my timeless themes. But I have a world that I've built that I can just simply pull in characters, pull in cultures, pull in history, have the setting, everything is done. I just need to apply the themes to it. This story is called The Song of Deceit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get a story structure. We're going to develop a story beat.
Oh.
We're going to design the characters, and then we're going to check for consistency. So those are the things we're going to do. These are the 4 steps to writing this story. the last thing we do is actually do the writing. So the tools we're going to use. One, I use ChatGPT to first find that theme. So the theme you just saw, I told ChatGPT what I wanted. I told it the novel. It fed me back the narrative and the themes, and that's what I use. And then I use Gemini. Now, the benefit of Gemini 1.5 is that 1 million token context window, because I have a world that is 90 pages long, and I want to extract all of that information and interact with this world so I can write the story and I can build the characters. I can get the setting. I can find the cities. I can do all of these things, but Claude doesn't have a large enough context window, and neither does ChatGPT to actually interact with that world. So I'm using Gemini 1.5, and surprisingly, Gemini 1.5 is very good. So Claude, I go to Claude to help with writing. Essentially, inside of Novel Crafter, I'm using Claude. So that's what happens. Novel Crafter is the structure. It's for novels, but I love writing short stories with it, and I'll kind of show you how that works. So the first thing was story structure. Let's get that. Now, I can ask ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude to give me a story structure, but here's the thing that I like to do. I like to write my own story structures. I can get some type of inspiration from the AI or the chatbot or what have you, but typically what ends up happening is that I kind of like to write it myself. It happens oftentimes with story beats. I will write a story beat myself, but typically I write the structure. Right. So now that I have the structure, now I can take this structure and start getting the beats. And one of the beats that I have, this is one beat here. And really the story beat inside a Novel Crafter is simply you have a setting, which we'll show, and then you have the story beats, what's happening inside of that setting. And so that's the typical thing of what I'm trying to do with the story beat. After the story beat, I need to design my characters. Now I have an entire world that I've built. So therefore, I simply just tell Gemini to give me some character names, give me the culture that they came from, and give me the overarching, all the things that come with that character and that culture has to get applied. And so this is the name, Azikawi is how you pronounce this. And he's a refugee. He's inquisitive, idealistic, hopeful, despite the harsh realities of war. And he believes Jabari claimed that the music box can end war and is determined to help him find it. This is the story in a nutshell. The story in a nutshell is that Jabari is looking for a music box, and he's telling Azikawi that this music box has magic, it's going to end the war, and this is a Afro-futuristic world that is 200 years in the future. So magic and all type of things are a reality in this world. So Azikawi believes him, and they go off on this journey to get this war, except for the city is under siege. And this is something I did take from the city of Thieves, is that this city is at war. And Jabari and Azikawi are going to go into this temple to get this box. And so That's basically what's happening. And now, motivation, he believes Jabari's claim. The hidden motivation is that while he's helping Jabari gets it, he actually wants it for himself because he wants to return home with that box in the war in his homeland. So that's the character, and that's what's going on. Okay. So I have a character, I have a theme, I have the story structure, we have the story beats. I have 4 story beats. We can now move over to Novel Crafter. And inside Novel Crafter, we can put in our characters, we can put in our location, and we can put in the world. And this is the world. The world of Imantera is a set world that I have. And then you can see from the setting, I have the first setting, and I give an overall view of what this setting is. Okay. And so you start writing this story, and then if we go and we look, if we actually bring the story in, here's our story. So here's the first beat. Okay. And then we get the story. Here's the second beat. And I came back and did a little editing because this third beat here kind of ended funny. So I didn't like that. So I basically added in a few more elements here. Scroll down to the fourth beat, the fourth and final beat. And inside of the fourth beat is where the revelation takes place, is that the music box is not magic. Jabari just wants it because it's an artifact that belonged to his wife's family. He and his wife are on the outs, and he believes that if he can bring this artifact back, maybe that will help his marriage. And of course, Azikawi feels betrayed by that. And so that is kind of the story. Now, so that's the story. And what do we get from this? What we get from doing something like this is that we don't have writer's block, because there are no shortage of great novels out there to pull from. We know the themes that work. If it's a classic novel, and if you can extract a theme from it, you already know that it works. That is a theme that's going to work. You just now have to focus on the stories and on the character. So for example, now that I have my short story, the thing left to do is to really get down and edit this. Now, all of this took really just about an hour. So if I were to come in and show you Gemini, so here's the world that we built. So we have all of this information in here, and you can see here, this is where we have our story beat. I didn't particularly like the beats, and so I kind of gave it some different beats. And then we did a couple other things here, kind of get some impact and everything like that. And really, it was just like, just really going through this. So all of this took about an hour or so, and then we get a final story. So here's the Song of Deceit, the entire story. Again, this is not editing, but I did have Gemini go through and kind of give me an overall evaluation of the story. And you can see here's some additional thoughts: Jabari's backstory, the music box power, the city of Zababaru, supporting characters. Now, this is a short story now because AI always wants to write these long, epic stories. This is a short story, so we don't need to do all of that, but we do need to edit. And the benefit of this process means that I go from blank page to editing much faster. And the editing part is what's going to separate really great stories from mediocre stories. Because if I were to put this out as is, it's kind of mediocre. I'm going to have to go in, and I can spend a day or so. If I wanted to, I can spend an entire day just editing this story, getting it just right. And that is the point of this. So my hope is that you can use this process where you now can start getting your ideas out there and not waiting. Get the idea out there, get it on paper, get something going, and then your time is spent on the final leg, and that's in the edits, the fine tuning of the story to make it great. All right. So